Caroline, meeting is now streaming live.
So we're just getting ready. Thank everybody for your patience.
Hello, how are you?
So I thank everybody. Michelle, I'd ask if we put folks now on mute. I thank everybody for their patience. Good afternoon. I'm Rabbi Eric Polikoff, Howard's late wife Sylvia's third child. We're streaming on Zoom with a simulcast on YouTube. I'm joined by Linda Goodman, Director of Sacred Music at B'nai Israel of Southbury, where Howard was a member, from another of Howard's congregations, Temple Concord, whose spiritual leader, Rabbi Barbara Goldman Wartell, will speak momentarily, and who officiated at Howard's burial this morning. We're also grateful for the voices of soloists, including B'nai Israel President Lisa Siegel, my niece Julie Benko, accompanied by her fiancé, Jason, and the words of family. We thank Michelle and Rebecca Rosen for their very helpful technical assistance this afternoon. You will notice that your screen has been renamed, assigning an initial number for those attending the breakouts after our service, where you might speak directly to family members. Feel free to use the private chat function to let Michelle or Rebecca know should you wish a different assignment. And when you're in one of the chat rooms afterwards, if you'll be joining us in the chat room, you can always, rather than ending the meeting, let them know and they can move you from room to room. For those on Zoom, we also recommend that you put your screen into the gallery setting, as it will work best for our spotlighting. Today, we now remember Howard. He was predeceased by his first wife, Doris, and second wife, Sylvia. Zichronot Livracha, may their memories be for blessing. He is mourned by his children and in-laws, by Iris and Margaret, Carol and Jim, grandchildren and in-laws, Rebecca, Matthew, and Colleen, Jacob and Aileen, and two great-grandchildren, Dorian and Elijah, and by stepchildren, Jay and Susan, Gail and Steve, Ellen and me, and step-grandchildren, Julie, Allison, Ariel, Mia, Risa, and Adam, as well as by relatives and friends. This year in particular, I've often reflected on this reading from the Machzor, from the prayer book. If some messenger were come to us with the offer that death should be overthrown, but with the one inseparable condition that birth should also cease. If the existing generation were given the chance to live forever, but on the clear understanding that never again would there be a child or a youth or first love, never again new persons with new hopes, new ideas, new achievements, ourselves for always and never any others, could the answer be in doubt? We shall not fear the summons of death. We shall remember those who have gone before us and those who will come after us. Let us treasure the time we have and resolve to use it well, counting each moment precious, a chance to apprehend some truth, to experience some beauty, to conquer some evil, to relieve some suffering, to love and be loved, to achieve something of lasting worth. For solace in human affirmation, we now turn to the comforting rituals of a Jewish tradition to which Howard proudly identified as we lift our voices in comfort and hope. Our speaker introducing Shaviti, the Psalm, is Rabbi Barbara Goldman-Wartell.
We are the candle lit by a spark from God. Toward the heavens, our bright flame reaches, adding light to the world around us. So frail this flame, to be extinguished by a breath from God. Family members will be speaking about Howard, and so will some of his friends during the course of this service. I want to share what I have learned from Howard through our contacts over the past 12 years. I really got to know Howard primarily through telephone conversations, letters, and emails. Some things stood out. He was a loyal and committed friend and honored and cherished his roots, the paths life had taken him and those with whom he was connected along the way. While he lived in Connecticut and Florida all these years, he had strong ties to Binghamton, to Greene, and to Temple Concord. He was also a proud veteran, a part of the American Legion chapter in Greene. There will be military honors at a later time. It was not able to happen today, but I was told that that will happen for him, as would also be his wish. In 2008, when I first came to Temple Concord, Howard was looking for good homes for several boxes of books. They were Jewish books, and in one of the emails I received via the Oringers, it included a list of all of the titles of books in one of those boxes, which showed me he had serious interests in learning about many Jewish areas. And I think Iris was going to be coming down to Greene that November, and he was hoping she could bring the books down. I'm not sure what happened with the books, but I did still find the note that I received. In 2013, he sent me an essay that he had written about the connections between Hanukkah and Thanksgiving. He sincerely asked for my comments and was generous in giving me permission to share any or all of what he wrote in any way I so choose. What stood out for me was the email with that essay. He continued saying, I try my hand at this in order to keep my brain going and for the sheer enjoyment of seeing what I can come up with, thinking outside the proverbial box. Something I had to do when earning a living as an engineer. He was very proud of his high level of competence as an engineer. And in 2015, he signed his name on the Interfaith Statement on Religious Discrimination, which the Children of Abraham of the Southern Tier had written and released. And he signed it, Howard D. Engel, P.E., professional engineer. Once an engineer, always an engineer. At least that's what I've learned from other engineers in my life. And I think it rang true for Howard as well. Howard wrote about that statement as well. The statement beautifully puts into words concepts and ideas I have often thought about and wished that could be expressed. Releasing the statement at this time is, of course, of utmost importance. We now can only hope that the statement will be widely read, discussed, and adopted by those in power and the average citizen as well. The statement's message is needed as much or more now than any other time. This and the next piece I want to share also stood out for me in terms of Howard's concern about the world, about his world, but the world beyond himself as well. So this past April, and I'm thinking some of these pieces he shared with me, he probably shared with others as well. But he sent me a piece that he'd written about Passover during the pandemic, and also connected it to our obligation with highest to care for others. And in it, he wrote, So on this night of Passover, after we have first all washed our hands, let us proclaim, we have often been oppressed in many lands, but are now safe and secure as citizens where our future stands. As we wait for Elijah and Miriam, let us pledge in the spirit of Highest. Once we helped them for they were Jews. Now we must strive to help them because we are Jews. The prayer next year in Jerusalem should mean to all in need, security, shelter, and nourishment to feed for the coming year and those to follow. Howard knew he would not live forever. He knew his time was coming to die and to leave this world to the rest of us, to his children, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the future generations, and to his friends. He planned as best he could to tie up loose ends, to leave a legacy for you in many ways. He stayed committed to Tikkun Olam, to striving to make this world a better place for all. And that came through in his writings to me as recently as last April. As we hear from family members today and from friends, you will share more about Howard and how you will continue from where he has left off. As I said this morning, but you can probably hear me a little better now, Howard had two great loves in his life, his wives, Doris and Sylvia, both of blessed memory. And he wrote to me in 2016 when we were preparing for Jacob and Aileen's wedding. He wrote to me, Sylvia and I have been happily married for the past 15 years. My first wife, Doris, died after our 50th anniversary and is buried in Temple Concord Cemetery, where I will join her someday. So that day came today, and Howard has now been laid to rest next to his beloved Doris in West Lawn Cemetery in Johnson City, New York. Sylvia went to her final resting place less than 2 months ago in Connecticut with her family. The interrelatedness of blended families is strong when the paths of the lives of parents and grandparents can come together and then go their different directions after death. Lives are intertwined with a respect and a love for the past, for roots, and for giving wings to the next generations. I'm going to continue with the chanting of Shviti, which is from Psalm 16. Shviti Adonai v'negdi tamid ki mimini ba'elot lachen samach libi v'yagel kivodi af besari Ishkan lavetach. Amen. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift.
Thank you. Linda Goodman, B'nai Israel's Director of Sacred Music, now presents Psalm 23.
Adonai Raui lo exar Bino deshe yarpitzeni Al menuchot yinaleni Shi Yeshovev Yeshovev Yancheni b'magale tzedek Yancheni b'magale tzedek L'man shemo Gam ki elech begeit salmavet larira rakiata imadi shivtecha umishantecha Hamuni Taroch lefanai Shulchan negetorai Dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya Aktok v'chesed yidivuni koli mei chayai koli mei chayai vishavti b'veit Adonai liorech yamim Adonai Rahui lo exar Adonai Rahui lo exar
And Linda and members of our choir now share the song There Are Stars, which has been translated from Hebrew poetry.
There are stars above, so very far away, and we only see each twinkling light long after the star itself is gone. There are stars up above, so very far away, and we only see each twinkling light long after the sun's is gone. And so it is with the people we love, the places we share our lives. Their memories shine ever brightly, though their time with us is done. And the stars up above that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us and help us find our way. These are the lights that guide us and help us find our way. So as we live, we honor their lives. So as we live, we remember. So as we live, we honor their lives. So as we live, we remember. So as we live, we honor their
As we now remember Howard, our first speaker, Colleen Mason, will be reading remarks written by her mother-in-law by Howard's daughter, Carol.
I hit unmute. Are we unmuted? Okay, there we go. Hello. Family, the most important theme through Daddy's life. When he was growing up, his family took care of each other through hard times. Daddy continued this strong connection to family as we were growing up. That included my mom's extended family, my dad's extended family, and our neighborhood. We enjoyed the fact that he spent time doing things with both our grandfathers, including gardening, woodworking, and all sorts of repairs. He was so talented with woodworking that he could make a cabinet out of an orange crate or build some beautifully stained bookshelves that are still in use today. He also enjoyed the meals our grandmothers made, so there was no competition, only cooperation. He helped us to enjoy the abilities of each different family member that way. Dad was a good neighbor. He once saved a panicked woman's swollen finger by calmly cutting off a ring that had gotten stuck. He made snowshoes so he could gather the neighborhood children so they wouldn't miss a birthday party because of a big snowstorm. He dressed up as a clown. He even let us try camping because our neighbors loved it so. He never said no when an extra mouth came to join us for dinner or insisted that we needed our plastic bush decorated with bows. Our family continued to expand through the years, including our friends, our dates, our spouses and partners, our foster, adopted, and birthed children. And later on, after our mother's death, our step family was included in that circle of family. All were loved. Everyone was treated with the same respect, and Daddy never referred to anyone by anything other than by saying they were his family.
Hey, that's about you.
As good a dad as he was an even better grandfather. He wanted to make sure the grandchildren and great-grandchildren knew how proud he was of them. He didn't compare. Each child was precious. He took pride in the fact that someone overcame a fear, met a challenge, got and kept a paid job or volunteering position, giving back to the community, or just learned something new. Before he died, he wanted us to make sure the grandchildren knew he was proud of all of them. Daddy was lucky to have 2 good marriages, one for 50 years and one for 20 years. When he was younger, he was able to do some traveling, but later on, it was enough for him to get great happiness from just being with his wife and holding her hand while listening to music. He knew how important it was to show love even when the other person couldn't always respond in kind. We will miss Howard, Daddy, Grandpa, Poppy, and Great Poppy. Hopefully, we can carry on his idea of love, support, and pride for his great, expanded, and inclusive family. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Margaret Campbell.
I wrote this letter to Dad a few days before he got worse in Florida. So he got to read my words and I was so relieved. Dear Dad, I've wanted to write this letter for some time now, but I can't seem to find just the right words to portray the great love, respect, and admiration I have for you. I realize that it took me a long time to finally call you Dad. It just felt like my dad was my dad. I'm not sure at what point you morphed out of being a father figure into being my adopted dad, but you have been for so very long and hold such a special part of my heart as such that calling you Dad seemed natural, appropriate, and overdue. At this particular juncture, I find myself unable to stop crying at the soon-to-be loss of you in my life, of you on this earth. I choose to believe, though, that I'm getting my mourning out of the way so I can celebrate your life instead. I will take the legacy of your wisdom, spirit, and humor with me forever. There is no one who appreciates good humor as you do. I love to make you laugh. Your laugh is hearty, genuine, and visceral. Every time I induced one of those laughs, I felt as if I'd accomplished something great. My reward was to see her face scrunched up, sometimes tears from laughing so hard. You have molded my life in ways too long to list, taught me many, many ways to approach and accomplish things. I never saw you as insisting that I do something a certain way. You simply and many times emphatically explained why and how the something worked or wouldn't work. I should say you didn't insist initially until I headed down a path, the wrong path, unwilling to accept and learn from your sage advice. Just to be clear, though, on occasion I had chosen the right path, and when I look back, you were standing in the metaphorical road with your arms folded. Thus our long, colorful, and loving history of butting heads, as he would say. As regards Princess Pine, I'm told I'm doing an amazing job at carrying out duties of packing up your things before you take your show on the road. But truly, it's what any good daughter would do for her father. And to hear that you've called me the best daughter-in-law anyone could have fills me with a deep pride. So I forge ahead, feeling honored and even fortunate to be the one that attains closure for all of us, to have the adventure of exploring all the pieces of the puzzle that is Howard Engel. The multitude of photos from yesteryear to now, the books, old and new, on every subject one could imagine. Diplomas, certifications, paperwork of all kinds, drawings, blueprints, newspaper articles, cards from all the different family members, especially Sylvia. She really quite liked you, you know. There were letters and missives eloquently written with a passion not fully tapped, crafted thoughtfully and creatively and effectively. And the tools, the tools, the workshop where all the magic was performed, in coming upon something that appears something as simple as a rock collection. Upon closer exam, absolutely fascinating collection representative of a passion, meticulous work, and research. There is so much more of this puzzle, so many pieces of your life, your families. I'm doing my utmost best as I sift, save, organize, discard, or pack to bequeath. Above all, to accomplish this as you would want it done. And after almost 30 years of being your student, I think I'm getting it right. I'm searching my brain right now for a segue to my next paragraph, but can't come up with one. Just ask Iris. She goes through our lives without a segue more often than not until her head is spinning. She will frequently tell me I exhaust her. In any event, I was thinking that if I was to set you up on a date, this is how I would describe you. Smart, very smart, funny, kind, patient, forgiving, warm, loving, affectionate, generous, so very generous, creative, skilled, motivated, determined, understanding, and really quite handsome in your younger years. In wrapping up, let me stress what a great teacher you've been to me. You are the best father-in-law one could ask for. You lead by example on how to deal positively, patiently, and effectively with difficult people in difficult situations. If only I'd followed that lead a little more often. I will remember those lessons and encounters to filter what is and isn't important and try to make that my philosophy. Do know that along with these words of tribute comes an acknowledgement that indeed you are not a man without flaws, but would be the first to admit them. As you prepare to start another chapter in your impressive book, I want to tell you that I can never thank you enough for all the unconditional love you gave me, even when I didn't feel like I deserved it, and that I will forever hold you in my heart. I will see you as others, many others do, that you are a man of great character and integrity, very enjoyable to be with, a man to emulate, a man for all seasons. All my love, your daughter-in-law, me. For years, I signed everything me. Phone calls were, hi, it's me. Sometimes I wondered if he forgot my name, but he never did.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Howard's grandson, accompanied by two very handsome young men, Matthew.
It's unmuted now.
Am I still muted? Can't tell if I'm
No, you're on.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So when I think of my grandfather, one of my most vivid memories of him is from when I was very young, probably about Dorian here age, of him in the stream at his property in Green, up to the water in his knees, lifting at the time what I felt were boulders, huge boulders out of the stream bed with his bare hands. And I don't remember exactly why he was doing this, but it was either because he was trying to make a deeper area in the stream so that everyone in the family could go swimming, or we could paddle around some boats. And I remember watching him and seeing how strong he was and feeling like this was someone who could do anything. That's someone I wanted to be like. And through my entire life, this image of him lifting these giant rocks is just something that frequently came to my mind every time I think of him. And that's how I always felt about him, that he was someone who could do anything. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, and he would do these things to take care of other people. I lived with him and my grandmother for a few months when I started high school, and they would drive me to and from school each day, which was a 45-minute drive one way, amounting to about 3 hours of driving per day for them. I remember him helping me many late nights on homework, and I know 9th grade of high school wouldn't have gone as well if not for him. He taught us the importance of spending time with people. He was always working on a project, and he was quick to involve others. I fondly remember going with him to blaze new trails through the woods, working with him on projects in his shop, and operating heavy machinery to create new drainage ditches and ponds. And he loved having family around. Holidays were always at his house so that everyone could be together. And then when he married Sylvia and the family grew, you could see his joy in having an even bigger family together to care for him. Every time we spoke to him on the phone over the past many years, he'd always ask what we needed. He repeatedly told us to let him know how he could help. He always wanted to make sure that everyone else was always taken care of, and I think he succeeded in that. But more than that, he taught us all how to care for everyone else too. So even though my childhood memory might have been big rocks that I, at the time, turned into huge boulders, I think he really would move boulders to take care of people. And I like to think that he taught many of us to be the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Howard's stepdaughter, Gail Benko.
Howard came into our lives when I was 41 and my daughters, Julie and Allison, were 11 and 7. He told me before he married my mother that he did not want to be an add-on and wanted to be part of the family. And my mother confided that after they set a wedding date, he went to the cemetery with her to tell my father not to worry, he would take care of Sylvia. He was the only grandfather that my children, nieces and nephews ever knew, and he took that role very seriously and showered each child with attention and love. He bragged about their accomplishments to everyone he met, and accompanied my mom to myriad plays, concerts, and graduations. A retired engineer, he could fix things. And Julie just sent me a picture of Howard untangling a necklace that I couldn't get off at all at a family gathering. And she had a picture of him untangling it while I was wearing it. But as I could say, he could fix things, and he was always happy to look at a leaky faucet or a broken step and repair it. When he moved into Princess Pine Road, he hit the jackpot of things to repair and was always working on another project, which he did between hours at his computer, where he conducted a lengthy email correspondence with friends and family around the world. He had a green thumb, as Carol mentioned, and was partial to geraniums and impatiens, and transformed the pool area of Princess Pine into a beautiful oasis every summer. He loved food and cooking, especially steak, that he served accompanied by sizzling onions. He always noted what people liked to eat and made sure whenever we came over that there was his special teriyaki salmon for me. He didn't trust the aides who later came to Princess Pine to prepare it correctly, and always supervised so that it came out just so. When my mother's dementia became more pronounced and he felt they could not host the usual large Thanksgiving gathering, he asked me to find the very best private room at the Delamar and have Thanksgiving there, which we did. He took great pleasure in selecting the menu and all the trimmings. Howard had a t-shirt that he used to wear, which said, "I never argue. I just explain why I'm right," which perfectly illustrated his personality and the countless discussions about politics and current events over the years. It was a family joke when he bestowed that same t-shirt on Steve when he lost weight and had to get rid of all of his large shirts. True to that t-shirt, we did not always agree on everything, but I know that he did love my mother and miss her dearly when first dementia and finally the pandemic separated them. Howard took great joy in hearing about all the good things that happened in our lives, and I know in the future there will be times when I want to pick up the phone and hear that raspy voice at the other end. I find myself looking across the kitchen table at the chair he liked to sit at when he came to dinner. I wish we could go back to one of those dinners when my mom was still my mom and Howard was well. They were wonderful nights, and I am grateful to have had them and to have had Howard in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. We invite Howard's friend Abbott to offer a few words.
I have to unmute. Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I met Howard in the year 2012, and that was when my wife of 64 years passed away, and I was adrift down here in Boca. And Howard sort of adopted me and sort of brought me into his web of people that he loved. And I became acquainted with a lot of you and feel for you. Basically, we formed a relationship because we had much in common. I sort of felt that we were mirrors of ourselves. I was in World War II, Howard was. I was an engineer, Howard was. We both had comparable views, except a little bit different on Israel. The way I remember Howard, where's my picture? Oops, okay. This is the way I remember Howard and the way he saw himself when we chatted. And it was unique in that we just bonded emotionally. And part of me died when Howard died. I'm done. Thank you. And you're all a wonderful group. And it's unfortunate that when we die, a group like this comes out and tells us how much they loved us. But a lot of you did it in person. Wonderful group. I'm signing off.
Thank you, Abbott. Lisa Siegel now presents Yehiyu.
Yihyu l'ratzonim refi. Yihyu l'ratzonim refi. V'hayom libi lefanecha. Adonai tzurim Oh, may the words words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you. Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Huya say shalom aleinu. Kol Israel. Name. Amen.
Thank you. Over the past year plus with Howard in Florida, I was tasked with sorting through the mail in Norwalk. There were bags of mail. The vast majority was addressed to Howard. Beyond financial statements and the like, he seemed to be on 1,000 lists for a host of causes: veterans, medical research, Jewish and Israeli institutions, civic action and political issues. Because he gave, no one got more solicitations, more bags of mail. If you've seen Howard's various workspaces, you too can attest, papers and stuff everywhere. The Talmud teaches that Rabbi Judah would say, 10 strong things were created in the world. A mountain is strong, but iron cuts through it. Iron is strong, but fire can make it bubble. Fire is strong, but water puts it out. Water is strong, but clouds contain it. Clouds are strong, but the winds can scatter them. Breath is strong, but the body holds it in. The body is strong, but fear breaks it. Fear is strong, but wine dissipates its effects. Wine is strong, but sleep overcomes its power. Death is stronger than all of them, but tzedakah saves from death, as it is written in the book of Proverbs, Utzedakah tatzil mimavet. Tzedakah delivers from death. A mountain is strong, but iron cuts through it. Iron is strong, but fire can make it bubble. Rabbi Judah reminds us that we live in a world replete with hard elements, but they themselves are subservient to other forces within an interconnected process. Physical existence, too, is vanished by death. And while one might assume death to be the ultimate victor, Rabbi Judah counsels no. Tzedakah, the good things we do, the way we help and devote ourselves to others, transcends that eternal void. Utzedakah tatzil mimavet. Tzedakah delivers from death. For his part, Howard tallied on a spreadsheet on his computer his tzedakah, his response to the innumerable requests for support. When over 2 decades ago, courting my mother, in World War II style with flowers and candy and love letters, he also shared with her a printout of his donation list. She was deeply impressed by both his generous spirit and that modern twist on the ancient wisdom. In telling me about him, Howard, she told me about it, the list. As a married couple, they would be part of 3 synagogues, 2 of whom represented here now. Howard came into this world in 1925, born in Brooklyn to Max and Rose. The second son, his brother Merrill, was 4 years older. His father, an electrician, established a factory that built metal toilet partitions. His mother was a homemaker. Yet it wasn't an easy childhood, as Howard moved from school to school and also suffered from health issues, missing much school. He found joy in his close, extended family, including his cousins, and as we've heard, in building things. These would remain constants through the many decades to follow. Indeed, it was through a cousin that wife, Sylvia. Howard graduated during the war from prestigious Brooklyn Tech, notwithstanding a learning disability with spelling that would also be a lifelong constant. He then went into the Army Air Corps, beginning in 1943 and training on bases stateside in New York, North Carolina, and Mississippi, Florida. He became a gunnery instructor, pistol marksman, and photographic laboratory technician. Fortuitously, Howard arrived in Britain on VE Day, yet he didn't leave the service unscathed. His hearing difficulties resulted from his time in the Air Corps. Still, as Abbott showed and explained, he remained a proud veteran. Honorably discharged in 1946, Howard returned home and to Doris. He enrolled in Syracuse University's engineering program and married Doris in 1949. Howard graduated from Syracuse in 1950, the first of many family Orangemen and women legacies. In 1970, he later received his MS degree from C.W. Post, LIU. Howard's first job was with the De Jour Projector Company, and his career flourished in systems management and would take him to Sperry and Rand. He volunteered at a women's shelter and served on the wastewater management board during the Rockefeller years. First living in Valley Stream and then New Hyde Park, with the arrival of Iris and then Carol, he and Doris moved to Old Bethpage, where they would remain until Howard's early retirement and the purchase of a property in upstate New York in Greene in the late 1970s. Howard loved Greene. He enjoyed the simplified life, looking at a beautiful view, moving rocks, as Matthew explained, and tending gardens, planting trees on a certified tree farm, and being a notable presence in town. He mixed comfortably with neighbors from various socioeconomic backgrounds. Howard also liked being close enough to Carol and Jim that he and Doris could help care for grandchildren, Matthew and Jacob, when Rebecca got sick. Howard remained a strong, abiding presence in their lives, as we know, and he treasured time spent together. When expressing delight, Howard's laugh was half giggle, half squeal. That laugh was particularly manifest as he recounted their growth and many achievements. He adored his daughters, their spouses, his grandchildren and their spouses. He was thrilled with the arrival of great-grandchildren Dorian and Elijah. He also followed closely the doings of his Polakov-Benko clan and other relatives. Their various activities made for side or dinner conversation. I can't overrate Howard's prideful focus on family, an aspect of his generous spirit. In recent years, he devoted considerable time to organizing albums that might connect the generations. A bit after Doris's death, Howard went to visit his brother Merrill in Florida. There he was introduced to Sylvia, my mother, but alas, not a farm girl. They wed in 2000, blending two families together and dividing their time between Connecticut and Florida without missing nary a milestone throughout both extended families. Indeed, we are joined now as far as Argentina. As Iris has observed, Howard felt lucky to be married to two women he absolutely adored. Commenting on her poise and deportment, he dubbed Sylvia the Queen Bee. He remained devoted through the increasing challenges of Sylvia's illness. Having settled into life in Norwalk and Boca, as Gail recounted, he oversaw a myriad of projects at his disposal, bestowing considerable attention to every detail, most recently a hot water heater and an electric generator each involved hours of emails. Howard could be stubborn. He likewise relished intellectual give and take with friends and family he connected with over the internet, from India to Florida to upstate New York. Howard liked to stay up late watching movies or the news. Howard loved food. Sharp to the end, he lamented how losing his taste for red meat and the like greatly diminished his quality of life. He had survived colon and bladder cancer and was stoic upon cancer's recurrence. An outlier, he persevered longer than could be expected, perhaps because he didn't overly perseverate on hard elements, the iron of scalpels or fires of chemotherapy, or in his final days, the breaths of oxygen or wine of painkillers. Rather, he continued to think about others. To his dear ones, and to Iris, who put on hold so much of her own life to minister to Howard with such devotion, we say, nothing so ennobles us as the will to love, to build, to provide tzedakah, and maintain our obligations. Howard and you have done all that. He lived through 95 active years, giving his best past the fright and fire and water. The bags of mail will wane, but the spirit behind them will be remembered for blessing. May his soul now rest in peace, as along with the many hard elements that God has created, something of Howard's essence prevails. Ken Yehi Ratzon, be this God's will. Julie and Jason?
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie, Howard's granddaughter, and this is Jason, my fiance. Both of my biological grandfathers passed away before I don't remember them. I was quite young, so Howard was the only grandfather that I knew, and he really took me in as his own. And he was present from all the big moments, from my bat mitzvah, his wedding, my bat mitzvah. When we got engaged, he was so excited, and even in this last year during the pandemic, he was so romantic, and he kept saying, you two should go out to a nice dinner and send me the bill. And I kept saying, there's nowhere to go, Grandpa. Everywhere is closed. A few years ago, I interviewed him for a school project, and I'm so glad I did. I broke the rule, and I even recorded that interview. I wasn't supposed to, but I went back and listened to it the other day. And even a few years before that, he told me about his his time in the Army a little bit, and VE Day, and how he was hailed as a conquering hero on the day he arrived. But he gave these books to me a few years ago from his days in the Army, from Tyndall Field and Army songbooks, because he knew, we were the musical ones. So we wanted to sing this World War II song in his honor today. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar faces that this heart of mine embraces all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
A portion of what Rabbi Barbara will momentarily chant. May life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion, our eyes to wisdom, that we might in persons the way of all things. May Howard, may David Hesh ben Mordechai Rachel's memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and deeds. May be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May his death awaken us to this truth, that the bond we share not be severed in sorrow. May rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. Rabbi?
El male rachamim, shochein v'amromim, hamse menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, im kiroshim utehorim, kizohar harakia, mazirim et nishmat David Hesh ben Mordechai v'Rachel shel halach le'olamo Ba'al harachamim yastirehu beseter kinafav le'olamim V'yitzror b'yitzror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom amishkavo v'nomar amen.
Amen. After final prayers, please feel free to remain on Zoom as you'll have an opportunity to offer personal condolences, and feel free to direct message Michelle or Rebecca Rosen to wish a specific assignment or to move from room to room. For those who are able, I invite you to rise to Kaddish, to join together with Iris and Carol and our family. I will share the Kaddish on our screen. Yitgadal v'yash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrute, v'amlich malchute, b'chaye echon, u'v'yome echon, u'v'chaye d'chit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah much le'olam u'lalmei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirat tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shal rabba min shemaya. V'chim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Zichronocha, may memory be for blessing, we say, amen. Please be seated.
Oh, say shalom, shalom, bimramav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol Yisrael. Ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom. Ve'akol Yisrael, Yisrael, Amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom, bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'akol Yisrael, amen.
Thank you, Linda. We thank all of our participants. Thank you, Rabbi Gold. Tell all of our speakers will now be headed in the various breakout rooms.
How do you go to a breakout room?
It should either come up as breakout room 1 or 2 and give you a choice. If not, you can tell me where you'd like to go, and I will happily send you to whichever room you would like.
2.
Linda, where would you like to go?
I'd like to go into Rabbi Eric's room.
Done.
Thank you.
Sure. Linda Carlson, I see your message, sending you. Margaret, did you want to go to room 2? I can't hear you, but I'm assuming that's where you want to go, so I just sent you.
I said I didn't know.
Okay, well, I sent you to 2, so you can switch if you want.
Okay.
May I ask, who would ever like to unmute themselves can tell me where they'd like to go? Robert Corman, you'd like to go to Iris, which is room 2?
2.
Sarah.
2.
Okay, you should be getting a message to go there. Gary, did you want to go to room 1?
Where are you going? 2.
Okay. Eileen, room 2? Okay. It should send you a message and send you over. Give it a minute. Stephen Farkas, did you 2? Zaluma Rubin?
1.
Okay. Daniel? Did you want to unmute and tell me where you'd like to go?
Hi there. Yeah, room 2, please.
Okay.
Just try writing there.
Hopefully you're in. Dorothy? Zaluma, there should have been a button for you to press to tell you to go in. You need to join to get into that room. Look at your screen. It should say join. There's an iPhone with a 718 phone number. Did you want to go into a specific room?
Gail.
Okay, you'll be going into room 1. Dorothy? Dorothy, if you'd like to talk to me, you need to unmute, please. The iPhone needs to join.
I don't know.
It's showing that you're in the room, but for some reason you haven't clicked to join. Dorothy, did you want to go into a room? Dorothy, you're still on mute, so I can't hear you. I'm sorry. The iPhone, I see that it hasn't connected you. I'm going to move you back to this room, see if you can move back, and I will try to switch you back again. There's a button that it will ask you to switch with, and you're going to need to push that button to join.
Yeah, but not if they're on their cell phone.
So how do I do it?